Let me turn to the U.S.-India relationship, which, as you know, has been on an upward trajectory for the last 20 plus years. The Prime Minister had a very positive state visit to the United States with new initiatives in defense cooperation, technology exchange, people-to-people relations, and otherwise. And yet one has to remember that India and the United States are not allies. They're strategic partners. India has, I think, a slightly different vision of a multipolar world than the U.S. vision for a world order. In addition, you have some in the United States that are concerned about domestic developments in India relating to religious freedom and other issues, and some in India who are concerned about the reliability of the United States overall. What do you see as the limits of the U.S.-India partnership, or are there no limits?
What did you call it? Limitless friendship?
Russia
limit
has no limits.
So I rather than limits, I would put it as possibilities. Let's take a sort of more optimistic view of how relationships work. Look, my sense is that actually today the United States is also fundamentally readjusting to the world. It's doing so partly, part of it is the long-term consequences of Iraq and Afghanistan, and that's one part of it. But I think that's only one part of it. It's also, if you look at the dominance of the United States in the world and its relative power vis-a-vis others, that has also changed in the last decade. And it's logical because as actually the world has become in a way more democratic, if opportunities are available more universally, then it's natural that other centers of production and consumption would come about, and there would be a redistribution of power in the world, and that has happened. So I would actually suggest to you, Ken, that in a way the United States, while it may not use that term, is adjusting to a multipolar world. In fact, the United States is actively seeking to shape what would be the poles and what would be the weights of the poles in a manner in which it would benefit the United States, and there's nothing wrong with that. So we will actually be looking at a world, probably we've already entered that world, where the United States is no longer in a way saying, okay, I basically work only with my allies. And the Quad itself is a demonstration of that. The fact that you have a country like India, which is not an allied country, that the other two partners are treaty-based allies, that in fact I think you should credit US policymakers with that imagination and with that forward planning, that they have already started getting into this new, much more fluid, much more dispersed sort of centers of power, very often much more regional, with sometimes different issues and different theaters producing their own combinations. So we are looking, it's no longer such a clean-cut black and white or three-axis solutions. I think it's far more messy in a way. It's much more anarchic in a way, but I think all of us are trying to adjust to that and find a way of working with each other. Now, where India and US are concerned, if you look today at the role that we could play in enhancing each other's interests, I think there's a recognition that this has enormous possibilities. That if the US looks at the world and says, okay, what is the competition and where are the partners' real or potential, and we do the same, I think you will find that the convergences today far outweigh the divergences.